heaven moves. There are moments in life when the battle becomes bigger than anything we know how to fight. We reach the end of strategy, the end of our own strength, the end of what our hands can accomplish on their own. And sometimes it's precisely there at the edge of our human ability that prayer becomes something more than words. It becomes surrender. It becomes trust. It becomes the soul looking toward heaven and saying, God, I need you to do what I cannot. This is what I think about when I look at this video. It lasted only a few seconds. A blue Austin sky in Zilker Park. Clouds drifting around the sun. Something most of us have seen thousands of times. But as I watched it, something caught my attention. The sun appeared to move differently from the clouds surrounding it. So rather than simply trusting my eyes, I wanted to know if that appearance could actually be measured. We went through the video frame by frame. Hundreds of individual features in the surrounding clouds were tracked to establish the dominant motion of the scene. The movement of the sun was then compared against that cloud field, and even after compensating for the common background motion, there remained a measurable apparent displacement of the sun toward the lower right. Approximately 18 pixels over just a few seconds. Now, I want to be careful about what that means. A video alone cannot tell us with certainty why every apparent movement occurred. Camera stabilization, optics, atmospheric conditions, exposure, and other factors can all play a role. Science deserves that intellectual honesty. But wonder deserves honesty too. And what struck me wasn't simply the measurement. It was what the measurement reminded me of. Thousands of years ago, Scripture records another moment beneath the sun. Joshua was fighting a battle. The day was disappearing. The enemy had not yet been defeated. And Joshua needed something that no military strategy could give him. He needed more time. So he prayed. And his prayer was astonishingly bold. Joshua spoke before Israel and called for the sun to stand still. And Scripture says, and the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Then comes one of the most remarkable statements in this passage. And there was no day like that before it or after it. The Lord fought for Israel. And that's from Joshua chapter 10, verse 13 and 14. Think about the heart behind that story. Joshua was not casually asking God for spectacle. He was in a battle. There was purpose attached to the prayer. People were depending on him, and victory mattered. And when human ability reached its limit, Joshua called upon the one whose ability has no limit. This is the part I don't want us to miss. The miracle wasn't really about the sun. It was about God hearing his child in the middle of a battle. The sun was simply part of the answer, and perhaps that is why this little video touches me so deeply. Not because I need to declare that I've proven a supernatural event. I haven't. But because when I look toward the heavens, I keep being reminded of something our modern world can make very easy to forget. We are not alone. Creation is larger than what we understand. God is larger than what we understand. And possibility is larger than what fear tells us it is. There may be somebody watching this who's in a battle right now. Maybe nobody knows about it. Maybe you've been smiling while carrying something unbearably heavy. Maybe you've prayed before and nothing seemed to happen. Maybe you're wondering whether God even hears you at all. Then let me leave you with this. Joshua did not pray according to what seemed reasonable. He prayed according to what the battle required. And God was not intimidated by the size of his request. So I want to encourage you to pray again. Not because prayer gives us control over God. It doesn't. Not because every prayer will be answered exactly as we imagine. It won't. But because there is something sacred about bringing an impossible situation before God, for whom impossibility has never been a limitation. Tell him where it hurts. Tell him what frightens you. Tell him where you run out of strength. Tell him what you cannot fix. And then leave room for the answer to arrive in a form that you never expected. Maybe God changes the circumstance. Maybe he changes the timing. Maybe he sends someone. And maybe he opens a door. Maybe he closes the one that would have destroyed you. Maybe he changes something inside of you so profoundly that the battle itself no longer has the power that it once did. And sometimes, perhaps heaven moves in ways that simply leave us standing beneath it in awe. I spent a great deal of time looking toward the sky, and the more I do, the harder it becomes for me to believe that creation is empty. The heavens speak, light speaks, beauty speaks, mystery speaks. And sometimes a few seconds beneath an ordinary blue sky are enough to remind a weary heart, God is still here, God still hears, and God still fights for his children. And when the purpose requires it, the God who created heaven and earth is certainly capable of moving things far greater than the obstacle standing in front of us. So whatever battle brought you to this moment, don't surrender simply because you can't yet see the way through. Look up, pray boldly, and keep walking. And remember Joshua. There was a battlefield below him, there was a heaven above him, and somewhere between the two stood a man willing to believe that God could do the impossible. Maybe that's where miracles begin. Not when we understand exactly how heaven will move, but when we finally believe deeply enough to ask. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Psalm 19:1. And when the battle feels impossible, remember Joshua, sometimes God doesn't merely show you the way through. Sometimes he makes a way where there wasn't one before.